Story 1. Short and simple, I think. A few years ago, my brother needed help. I let him move into one of my rental properties and we did it all legal. Lease agreement and everything. Because I was renting to him at a break-even point, we agreed that he was responsible for all the maintenance of the house and yard. Well, he has 4 kids. And the hot water tank isn't enough for his family and he wants a new one. I told him to go ahead. He then proceeded to take the cost of the hot water tank and installation of that month's rent. I reminded him of our agreement. He said he wasn't making improvements to my property for free. I said that the old hot water tank was fine and he made the decision to replace it. Big argument, and I didn't want to fight, so I said that he was not allowed to make any further changes to the house without my explicit agreement. So he stopped doing maintenance as a protest. The house itself is not pretty, but it is solid. It is old and the wiring in it was not meant for all the modern electronics we have. He wanted to add a new breaker box and run more outlets. I said no, thanks. I cannot afford that since I'm not making any money on the house. He started getting bitchy about it and the rent started getting paid late. I tried talking to him, but he said that he had to buy some stuff for the house and he was low on cash. So I sold the house. While the house itself isn't great, it is in an older part of the city and the property itself is 1/4 acre. Every time a house sells in the neighborhood, it is snapped up by developers and tuned into multi-family units. Or one guy built a McMansion on his land. I know a lot of the developers and I didn't even need to list the house to have it sold in less than a week. My brother found out when he was served with an eviction notice. He called me to ask WTF. So I told him that the house was causing me headaches and I had an opportunity to make some money and I took it. He said I should have offered him a chance to buy it. I said that he was having trouble making rent. How was he going to qualify for a mortgage? He said I'm an asshole and that he has the money. He was waiting to make me an offer. I asked him if he had money, why he was late on his rent. He started badmouthing me to all our family. A few of them took his side and tried to say I was being an asshole, so I offered all of them a chance to clear his debt to me if they wanted to share their opinion. None of them took me up on the offer. My parents are on my side and they said I shouldn't have rented to him in the first place. I feel bad for my sister-in-law and the kids, but I'm not going to spend the rest of my life subsidizing his. Comment 1. NTA. Why should you lose money to help him out? It was good of you to rent to him at a discount and he crapped on you for your hospitality. You can feel bad for your sister-in-law and nibblings, but they are not your responsibility. Comment 2. This is complicated. You were very generous with your brother who kept taking from you. The only way the water tank thing makes sense is if he believed that you weren't doing him a favor, that every landlord rents at break-even rates to family and family still gets the full tenant benefits package. Things escalated, and you wanted out of the deal, and the house. That made sense. When you made the decision to sell, you should have let him know, both to allow him to purchase it, maybe he could have swung the loan, and to give him the largest window possible for moving. Unless you feel there was a risk he'd damage the property to sabotage the sale, that's something you should have done. Now, are you an AH for not doing it? Your inference that he didn't have the ability to buy the house is presumptuous, but pretty reasonable. I'll give you a pass on that. I'd have assumed the same. So now it's down to were you an AH did not giving him more warning? I can give you a pass before the sale. But after the sale, he should have found out from you. You're an AH for letting him find out via the new owner's eviction notice. I want to be clear, you were very generous, and at all previous times weren't an AH. But that one choice changed the rating to ESH, meaning your brother is obviously an AH, but you're a little bit of 1-2 for not telling him you sold the house he's living in. Comment 3. ESH. You of course have the legal right to do what you did. Turning your brother's family out on the street with no advance notice is one of those things that makes you TA even if you are legally in the right. He should have stuck with the agreement or renegotiated a standard agreement with standard improvements and higher rent. Comment 4. YTA for not giving him a heads up. Yeah, he's in a hole too for trying to stiff you on rent, but holy shit, why would you not tell your brother they're about to be homeless? Story 2. Throwaway only cause I don't want this on my main. Okay, so basically my husband and I are getting married later this year. Each of our sides of the family are fairly big. It will be around 100 to 150 people total. My husband and I are paying for this all ourselves, as well as my grandma who said she doesn't care one way or the other on this issue. She just loves weddings. We have a lot of kids in our family, so we decided against making it child-free, but we did decide to make it dry. So there will be no alcohol of any kind at our wedding. Honestly, this doesn't have anything to do with there being kids there, but due to the fact that my fiancé and I don't drink. Nothing against people who do, it's just not for us and we don't want to. On top of that, we only really drink water. We rarely, if ever, drink soda, so most of the time it's only water with the occasional juice and milk. We don't even drink coffee. So obviously the food, which is a part my grandma is not paying for, is going to be expensive for that many people. We are having our wedding catered so everyone will have a good choice of food to choose from, but to drink only water will be provided. We don't want to have to pay for alcohol or soda. It is just a large added expense when we can just do filtered water for a much cheaper cost. Well, when family and friends found out, being got angry. Some didn't really care, but some are really upset about it. Saying that I can just have an open bar so I don't have to pay for drinks. We could, but still have to pay for the bartender, and we just really don't want to bother with alcohol there. Or we should at least have soda, because how can we expect everyone to drink only water? The kids will be upset. The wedding will be boring. That this is not how weddings work. Etc. So AITA? I didn't think this would be a problem. It's only water. I mean, don't most people drink water every day anyway? Should we pay the extra to have soda to make the family happy? Comment 1. I know that technically you could be in the right, but here's the thing about weddings: the marriage ceremony is for you and your fiancé. The wedding is for everyone you've invited. It's an event you're hosting, and not providing any drinks other than water makes you a bad host/hostess. I've been to dry weddings. There was a couple that put real thought and effort into designing mocktails themed around their relationship. It was delightful and everyone connected to the couple through it. Another couple had a sparkling cider tower in place of champagne, and everyone cheered with cider and flutes. When you're hosting an event, your job as hostess is to take care of your guests. Just because it follows a marriage ceremony doesn't make you any less the host of an event. And that means providing more than one drink option, especially non-alcoholic. Especially to an event your guests are incurring expenses to attend and bringing gifts too. YTA honestly. I fully support a dry wedding, but only water as a beverage is being a cheap host. Comment 2. I hope that in 20 years everyone's still saying you remember that wedding we had to smuggle in a 2-liter of Pepsi. Comment 3. YDA, I don't have anything against dry weddings, but surely you can offer something other than just water. Iced tea? Lemonade? Something with flavor? When my cousin had a dry wedding, she served sodas. Your guests are not likely to think it's very celebratory if you just serve water. And you would be surprised by the number of people who never drink water, let alone do it at celebrations. Comment 4. As someone who only drinks water and the occasional tea, YTA. Not about making the wedding dry. That's perfectly fine. But damn, give people some options to drink. Some carbonated water if anything. Story 3. I'm 37F and I come from a close-knit family. I have 2 younger siblings, 28M and 27F, and my sister recently got engaged to FBIL, 23M, after dating him for around a year. We all know him well and I have always got along with him. He comes from a rough background, but he has always been very polite and charming. He doesn't talk about his own family or about his upbringing. My sister said it's a painful topic for him, so no one ever pushed. There was recently a family event which Phil attended. He was quiet during the day, he is normally high energy and sociable, then disappeared for a while. When I went outside for some fresh air I bumped into him. He was emotional and said it was a hard day for him due to negative associations. He ended up offloading some quite shocking things from his past, including that he has a history of very serious drug use, including needles, and that he has done sex work and PN, men and women. I felt for him at the time because he was so upset, literally crying on my shoulder, but afterwards I felt more and more uncomfortable. I still feel bad for him since he clearly regrets it, but it's very shocking to find out he has that kind of history, and it does make me feel differently about him. Obviously I told my husband what Phil told me because I didn't feel comfortable keeping it to myself. I also told my sister because I didn't know how honest he had been with her and it could impact on her decision to marry him. She was angry and said she was fully aware and it doesn't make her think less of him. I know others might disagree, but I decided if my sister and FBIL weren't going to bring it up, then it was my responsibility to make sure my family had the information they needed to make an informed choice about what kind of relationship they have with him. My parents agreed that it was the right thing to do and were grateful. My brother said he could see my point but didn't think it was my responsibility to share that information. My brother's wife thought I was out of line. When my sister found out I told our family about FBIL's sketchy past, she was very angry. She is now refusing to speak to me altogether because apparently this has affected FBIL quite badly. They are no longer engaged because he thinks he's not good enough for her and no one in my family has seen him since all of this happened. Obviously that wasn't my intention and no one said he isn't good enough. I think it's naive to pretend that you see someone exactly the same way after finding out they're an addict. Whether you like it or not, there are risks that come with that lifestyle and relapses are common. I'm concerned that my sister will get hurt, and I don't think it's unreasonable for my family to have access to the same information I do, especially when they're inviting him to their homes and there are children around, etc. AITA for informing my family about FBIL's background? Comment 1. You suck. Comment 2. YDA, maybe you didn't realize because you're so blinded by your own ego, but he's 23. That would indicate that he got started on drugs and sex work at a younger, much more vulnerable age. Most 18-year-olds aren't aspiring to be addicts or porn stars. Do you know anything about his financial or living situations at that time? Do you have any idea how he ended up in that situation? Can you even imagine the shame and guilt he must feel without the added pressure of knowing how harshly you and your family judge him? Next time, if there even is a next time, that someone trusts you with personal information, try compassion over your holier-than-thou approach, and you might find that people with pasts they're ashamed of can be some of the greatest people you ever meet. Comment 3. YTA. You should have minded your own business, especially once you realized your sister already knew. What an awful thing to do. Comment 4. Here is the list of reasons why YTA on a truly spectacular scale. You massively betrayed the trust of someone who opened up to you about their trauma. You are judgmental of sex workers and people who have suffered from and overcome the disease of addiction. You describe said disease as a lifestyle. The fact that you felt the need to clarify men and women indicates a level of homophobia. You're treating your adult sister like a child who can't make her own decisions. You don't have the self-awareness or emotional intelligence to realize any of this. Story 4. Hey all. I, 26M, currently live in a rented apartment with my roommate, 24M. Recently we've been running into some issues because of his grooming. I occasionally noticed a funk coming off of him, and a few times it got bad enough to ask him to take a shower because it was distracting me and grossing me out. He apologized, and said he had a lessened sense of smell, which made him less likely to realize he needed a shower. Sounded kinda BS to me, but he showered, so I didn't think anything of it. Our apartment has 2 full bathrooms in the hallway, and I ordered a bidet for mine. The other day, I was installing it, and he happened upon me doing so. He asked what it was for, and I explained. He chuckled, and said you gay guys are something else. I laughed and said, it's less invasive than toilet paper, and more effective. And he laughed and said yeah, but I don't use that either. Something clicked in my head, and I asked him for clarification. Apparently he never wipes. He says he thinks it's gross to rub his ass with a piece of paper that doesn't really do anything. He said no straight guy does, and it's not a big deal. I asked what he does if he eats Taco Bell or something, and he said he just takes a shower. I asked what if he's in a public bathroom. He says he waits until he gets home. I then asked if he washes his butt in the shower, and he said that the soap from his back drips down and takes care of it. At this point I was basically gagging, and told him he can't sit on any of the furniture I pay for, which is most of it, until he wipes and washes his crusty ass. He got mad, and says the only reason I care is because I get fucked in mine, to which I responded that I'm a top. He got pissy and left after this, and I haven't seen him since. I called his girlfriend to ask if she has heard from him, and she said he came over, explained the situation, she got grossed out, and he left her place. I feel kinda bad for not viewing this as a he doesn't know the right way situation rather than the more antagonistic turn it took. AITA? Comment 1. YTA for making me read this and question my faith in humanity. NTA, though. Get a new roommate, hire a biohazard team to come in, set the place on fire and report a complaint to the Geneva Convention. Comment 2. NTA. People who don't wipe their ass deserve to feel the embarrassment of that. Similar post the other day that I am still gagging over. Comment 3. No straight guys do. Worst appeal to the masses ever. My roommate, straight M, and I had to negotiate about what kind of toilet paper to buy because he cared so much. NTA. Comment 4. NTA, EU. I'd also be careful of using the same laundry machine as him. Dude needs a reality check.